from the wild side as I look for my microphones. Well, we're outside today because it's so beautiful. And also, like I said last week, it's time to make some waffles. So, let's see how that goes today. Hope you can hear me from all this chaos. Here we go. Beautiful. It's dimmer because there's a bit of a cloud now, but that's not the norm. It's all blue skies shining on me, as old Willie Nelson says. Now let's see if these microphones are gonna pick, if anybody can confirm. Now they're connected. If you can confirm, I am grateful for that. Good morning, Mike Scott. Glad you made it. So we're sitting on the, cool, Stephen Sheets says he's going live. We're sitting here on the porch of the cabin. Let's see. And there's the waffle makings. There we go. And let's see here. Here's my view. Well, as it seems, as I always say, that's why I love it out here. I mean, I love my other place in the summertime because of the creek and the shade. Shade is kind of hard to come by out here in the desert, but man, I love the peacefulness and the privacy and the views. It's pretty nice. All right, well, I got a fire going in there with some hot coals accumulated. So we're gonna see if we can do waffles. As I got my waffle iron. These waffle irons are awesome. So you can, technically you can flip it like that. We'll see if I can, you know, like you do in a hotel. We'll see if I can pull that off in there. And if I can get this thing properly oiled. So I posted a picture of it when I made waffles on Facebook, and part of it stuck. So of course I added more oil the next time, and then the whole thing stuck. So what the heck? So I think it's more about seasoning than adding a bunch of oil. One side worked perfectly from the get-go, so I think it was already seasoned. So everything's a learning experience, and sometimes it doesn't make sense until you figure out what the problem is. Ever see somebody use a fork for baking powder? Well, it works just fine. I got a cup and a half of white flour, half cup of whole wheat flour. So 2 cups of flour, and then 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder. I usually just use all whole wheat flour. I rarely ever use white flour, but because waffles are a treat, and they just don't work. Pancakes work great. You can make pancakes out of whole wheat flour, but waffles, you know, they got to be fluffy to be a waffle. Otherwise, you might as well just make pancakes out of them. So I'm going with mostly white flour. Because like I say, it's a treat. The waffles are such a hassle. I'm not going to do them every week or every day, that kind of a thing. But I do love waffles, and that keeps them special anyway. That's one of my favorite things about a hotel. I don't even care about the bed because I usually travel with my bed. It's the hotel. What I like is the waffle makers. So I'm going to make even better waffles. So I got my oil going inside on the stove, and I'm using pork fat that I store in here. Even though it says to use butter, I didn't see the butter until I got the I didn't see that it says to use butter until I got the oil, the fat melting. So I don't know, maybe I'll add half butter, half pork fat. And I got some duck eggs, so I'm using 1 duck egg instead of 2 chicken eggs. I went and trimmed some horse's feet for a gal and told her I didn't need any money because she didn't have a whole lot. And I got some eggs instead. Told her, well, I just might come back for more eggs when I'm out. And now the trick, another trick, as everybody probably knows except me, is the vanilla. You add vanilla for waffles. All right, let's get this oil. Oh, hot dog, it's melted. Never know what that wood stove is gonna do. So I got some melted oil here. I got the milk substitute, which, because I've got heavy whipping cream, I mix it with water. Fresh out of the well. All right, I'm gonna beat this egg and look for comments. Hey, Stanley Yorks, good morning. I always want to talk horses with you now that I know that your history. Idaho artifacts. Hey, that's cool. I like to talk artifacts with you. Let's see. Jennifer Harden. Where I stayed in Kansas, we were about 10 miles from anything, and it was amazing. Oh, yeah. Where you stayed? You mean lived, or did you go visit there? And there was a hotel out in the middle of nowhere. Got my curiosity going there. All right, so I used most of the oil in there, and then I'm going to save the rest for the waffle iron. And then I'll put butter on the pancakes instead of in the pancakes. All right. This one's almost empty, and then I'm down to my last bottle. Coffee and creamer is what keeps me going to town, even if I don't want to. So I bought 4 bottles last time. Now what sucks is this creamer and milk is gonna make that dang oil solidify. So let's mix that in before that oil gets solid again. All right, this is coming along nicely. All right. Fortunately, I had this great big bowl. I minimized all my kitchen stuff down to hardly anything, but here at this cabin, I had used this bowl that year that I was making donuts and bread. So all I had to do was sterilize it and back to having a bowl. Idaho Artifacts says duck eggs are the way to go. Yeah, duck eggs are awesome. Just for the summertime. Also stayed there for about a year after I graduated. Well, what was it? Was it a farm? Were you helping out on a ranch? You've got me intrigued. I've been reading a lot about Kansas because today I pulled out my book again. That's all the short stories from guys in the writing in the 1920s about their experiences driving cattle up the trail from Texas to Kansas. So I was reading that book again. It's 1,100 pages just about of stories. And so you get to read about Texas and you get to read about Kansas primarily. It's such an incredible account, learning so much about 70s cowboys. Because before that, it was kind of a mystery. Nobody else knows anything about them. It's really frustrating on the Facebook groups. People make all these claims about how cowboys lived and what they did in the 70s. And but they don't provide any accounts for it. So I'm actually getting some accounts, some straight up accounts of cowboys in the 70s. For instance, I read one was really fascinating. It was 1870 or 1871, so that's early. In the cowboy era, 1870 is really early. And he got done with the trail and headed back to Texas, but before he left Kansas, he went in and bought 2 suits of clothes and some shop-made boots, as he called them. And one suit of clothes he said was a black interchangeable velvet, or an interchangeable black velvet. I don't know what that means. and he said he paid $50 for the suit. To put that in perspective, I'm pretty sure other suits, a normal suit, you could get for like $10. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember the prices offhand, but around 10 or $15 you can get a suit of clothes. That's trousers, vest, and coat, and maybe a shirt. I don't remember. Shirts were like $1, and he paid $50 for this suit, and he got 2 suits. So anyway, one of the things that's really annoying when it comes to cowboys is people say, oh, they wouldn't carry a Colt revolver, an 1873 Colt revolver, because they were $25, and that was a month's pay. And then when you actually read the accounts, you find out, oh, these guys blew their money left and right. Because the guy said when he got to Texas, he realized he could have bought that $50 suit for a lot less. But he said, but I didn't care because I wanted to, shoot, I can't remember his words. He said, I wanted to shine for the gals when I went back to town. So he wanted to look good when he got there. And he did, apparently. He was only 17 when he did that. Anyway, point is, he didn't care. He overspent and he didn't care. And that was the general. I got so many accounts of cowboys not caring about money, so that it doesn't make any sense to say, well, they wouldn't have carried a 1873 revolver because it was $25. I think it makes a ton of sense that they would have. And they loved their guns. I got another account this morning where the guy said they rode into a town in Kansas, early 70s again, and we're met on the edge of town by the sheriff saying, you got to give us your guns. We don't, you can't carry those in town. And he says, we weren't about to turn over our beloved friends. That was how he spoke about his guns. And so they turned around and rode out of town shooting their guns off. And he said the sheriff didn't follow. And anyway, it just kind of gives you their attitude toward their guns. So if they'll spend $50 on a suit, I don't see why they wouldn't spend $25 on their favorite tool. Deadwolf resistance. I blew a lot of money as a cowboy in the 80s. I believe it. I mean, even today, young people blow their money. When I worked construction, I was different. Everybody was broke after the weekend. I wasn't, because I saved my money, but it's just normal behavior. So it's just so dumb when people say that cowboys wouldn't have bought expensive guns. Oh, all right. Here goes. Well, actually, let's stay on this topic. Justin, hey, man. Good morning. Justin says $50 in 1870 is equal to $1,236 today. Yeah. So I'm kind of out of, I mean, that's almost like a month's wages at minimum wage, which is basically what they were doing, was minimum wage. So $1,200, and that's funny. Yeah, you can get a cheap suit for like $300. $1,200 would be a nice suit. I could see guys doing that, for crying out loud. Thanks, man. That's interesting. Okay, and Jennifer answered what she was doing out in Kansas. It was an old homestead that was 80 plus acres that was passed down from generations. So it was your family homestead? Is that what you're saying? Hunting and fishing galore. As a kid, I took it for granted. Oh, wow. And I suppose it's gone now, or changed hands, I imagine. $100 for a hat back in 1986. Outrageous. Wow. And people were spending, I found out it's common for people to spend $800 and $1,000 on a hat these days. I called some jackass out on it who was selling them, and he said, well, it's an investment. I know it's not. You can spend $100 on Marketplace for a good quality hat. But I don't know, people are weird. I blew a lot of money as a cowboy. Stanley York has a great history that I'd love to hear more about someday. Stanley, maybe we can have coffee someday if I'm ever in your town. Blowing a lot of money as a cowboy. Yeah, see? Even now, lots of guns in the 90s. Yeah, so anyway. So, yeah, that's what drives me nuts. I left the Facebook groups. I got sick of trying to have decent conversations with people that would rather just make claims that they have no substantiation for, and then, which would be fine if you can have discussions with them, but when you bring up a discussion, they're gone. They have no, it's not about learning, it's about knowing, which is my constant rant that mantra. That's my constant mantra, that most people for history, it's about knowing, it's not about learning. And it's unfortunate. Okay, speaking of learning, let's go see how the cast iron does today. I've not had great luck using it, but it has worked. And so today, as I said, I'm going to try a little bit different. What's funny is I thought for sure that I was burning my waffles, only to find out they were barely cooked. So hopefully these coals last long enough. I already ate breakfast, so if I just get one waffle, I'll be happy. All right, I need to get some welding gloves. For pot holders, I use my insulated gloves, which are actually really nice gloves. But they were given to me. All right, now, because this is at a 90 degree, I don't know if that's gonna fit. Doggone it. So unfortunately, I can't use this super cool handy flipper. I'm gonna have to use my grate. Oh, grate. And let it heat up. I think you can see it. Maybe the light was in the way. Maybe the sunshine was in the way. Speaking of sunshine, man, I couldn't sleep. We had winds that were just whipping like crazy last night, and I wondered if my roof was going to blow off. So I've got it strapped down, but seems to still be there. Thanks, Stanley. Yeah, that would be awesome. Remind me which state you live in. Idaho Artifacts. It's crazy. Folks around here will spend absurd amounts on clothes. It's sad. Yeah, as much as I love the cowboy attitude, and I do love cool clothing, I mean, making it idolatry, as we say, is a different thing. I mean, kind of a consumerism in society. And it's different when you're buying a set of clothes because you need them. Anyway, Jennifer Harden says, it was my cousin-in-laws, but they lost it. Dang, that's sad. But at least you got the memories. That's pretty dang cool. Yeah, all right. And boots. Man, I had to have my fancy buckaroo boots. Yeah. Boots were always funny to me because I loved how they looked. I'd go into the stores, but you know, these days, of course, we wouldn't wear our pants inside of them. And so you only see that part of them. When I was younger and buying boots, I was like, man, it sucks to hide the best part, the beautiful part, because man, they make some cool boots. Hey, Craig Curtis, morning. God bless Texas. Clifton, hey, Cliff, good morning. Cliff, I've been shopping for horses. Everybody, I'm going through a really frustrating time horse-wise. I want to be riding every day, but I'm pretty sure my mare, I'm pretty sure that she does have an injured hind leg. I was hopeful that that with some time off she'd be okay, but it seems to still be hurting her. I picked it up a few times, and she's a nice horse. Like, she didn't kick, but she pulled it away. I wasn't sure if it was because she was just being feisty because I haven't been working with her. And so I went to the other side, picked up her foot. It was like she was asleep. She just let me hold it. And so she didn't show a whole lot of pain. But that's why I quit riding her last summer, was because she stomped her foot and kicked out while I was riding her. And I figured out that her leg hurt her. So I don't know if maybe she's going to be lame because those leg problems are generally pretty serious. She still walks and runs when she's by herself, so which probably made it worse. I've got her pinned up now. So anyway, frustrating times horse-wise, so I might buy a gelding. Anyway, that's an update. And Cliff reminded me because, uh, so anyway, that's the latest. Cafe of Broken Dreams asks, did a typical cowboy usually have a steady cash flow, so to speak? Were there any periods of time during the year when they couldn't find any jobs and they needed to travel, let's say, to other towns? Um, that's a great question. That brings up when we talk about cowboys, I've 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 sorted it out to 4 different types that we need to take into consideration. There's the Texas cowboys, and they would go up the trail in the spring, maybe in the summer. Some of them would go back and do a few trail rides that year in the same year. Most of them would just do one trail ride. Actually, about a third of them would only do one trail ride in their life, is the estimate. I just read some estimates on that. So you'd get the one-timers, you'd get the guys who'd go every year in the spring, so that took about 4 months of their life, and then the rest of the time they'd work in Texas for whatever cattlemen they were working for. So presumably they got, I don't believe that they got paid like monthly like we are used to, even when they were just working on the ranch. Because the reason I believe it that way, other accounts that I've read of non-trail driving cowboys, like if they quit the brand, they say they go and collect their pay, and so they'd go and get $100 or $150, whatever the boss owes them. So it gives you the impression that they didn't get paid regularly. And because they're room and board, I mean, they sleep outside or they sleep in the bunkhouse, so they don't need to pay for anything, and then they get fed. And so it's not like today where they had monthly bills. So yes, there would be times, or if they got fired or if they quit a job and then they had to go travel. So yeah, and then you get a lot of these accounts where these guys would go into town and gamble and spend all their money and blow all their wages that they just collected, and then they had to borrow money to get back home. Like you read accounts of these guys that might go up to a ranch in Nebraska and then decide they want to go back home to Texas after working in Nebraska for a while. And it's just funny. It's such a different life of not needing money. Because also when you traveled back then, it was the rule of the land is you could just stop into anybody's house and expect to be fed. I just read another account of that. One guy, he stopped into some people who lived underground. He was describing those underground houses that they did in Kansas. And this couple put them up for the night, fed them, and then the next day he gave them $5, and they said, "No, we don't want $5." They said, "We only 50 cents pays for the humble accommodations we gave you." But he said, "You know what? I learned so much from you." It was a pretty funny story. He says, "I learned so much from you. It's worth $5." So he gave him $5. So again, to put that in perspective, 50 cents is what they would have assumed was the going rate. So maybe say 50 cents to $1 is what you'd pay to somebody if they showed you hospitality, and he gave them 5. So, but also you didn't have to pay. Like if you were traveling and you were destitute, they'd still put you up. Same with Indians. It's my impression that the government wasn't giving Indians the stuff that they were supposed to. There's a lot of accounts of the rations that they promised to Indians on reservations were rotten meat, and it was just horrible. So the Indians would also go to pioneers' houses, and the women would just cook for them, and they'd eat a lot, and the women would cook until they were done eating and leave. So it was very different back then. And the closest that I'm aware of that exists like that today is Mongolia. It's known as the most hospitable culture in the world. And there's still rural people who live by horseback and camelback and herd animals. So it was my dream to go out there and buy a horse and ride around because people do that. And but I don't know if I'm going to do it now. But at one point, man, that was all I wanted to do. I wanted to go experience that. So anyway, I hope that answered your question, Cafe of Broken Dreams. Oh yeah, so I divided up between the Texans, the trail driving part of their lives, and then the open range from from the Midwest to the Rockies. And this was described by, I think, Charlie Russell. He described these three regions. The Texas guys, the open range, he considered that all one area that followed the certain style. And then he said over in California, on that side of the mountains, was the buckaroos. He described them way back then as a buckaroo style and a different style coming out of California. And so the reason I say we need to describe four regions when talking about cowboys of the 70s and 80s, because it's the Texas cowboys that were very distinct, who went up and down the trail. And then there was the Kansas, Wyoming, Nebraska, Montana, that were a mix of the Shorthorns and the Texas cowboys. Shorthorns tended to be the Yankees who financed it, and then they'd hire a lot of Texans. And then there was the Californian cowboy style. And then to me, I think another distinct style is Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. Because this town here, this valley, was one of the biggest cattle markets in the time. You never hear about it because we weren't putting out the cool stories. But and I only found out about it like 7 years ago. So anyway, to me, it's four areas that we need to distinct, and then when we try to describe cowboys. Stanley Yorks, you're in the Panhandle of Texas. Well, that just gives me one more reason that I want to see the Panhandle of Texas. I think that's a different Texas. I've spent too much time in the hill country. First, I went down to like where Fort Davis and Alpine are. That was my first introduction to Texas. And then San Padre Island, and then the hill country, and that's pretty much all I've seen. Jennifer, listening and typing at the same time, no problem. Oh wow, she got to explore Native American camps that was on that property. Oh my goodness. Oh, my throat is getting hoarse already. Oh, it's already been half an hour, for crying out loud. Idaho artifacts. You ever find any artifacts out there? It looks like you would. Yes. I think it's right here. I found the pounding end of a mortar from a mortar and pestle, but unfortunately I didn't find any pestle. And then down here, I walked the easement road, and I found my first full. It was almost full arrowhead, but definitely undeniably an arrowhead, where you find pieces and I think, and it makes me wonder, this was undeniably an arrowhead. I found it, and then 3 days later somebody took a cat through and dug up that road, and it would have been gone. So for those of you like me, to me it's like there's something spiritual about finding artifacts. It's like they're brought to you. I don't go to really looking for them. I just wait till they're given to me. So, and I think the timing of that was pretty cool. And then some other people out here have found arrowheads. What nonfiction book would you recommend about this sort of story? This book that I'm reading, it's my favorite, even though it was written in the 20s by guys reflecting, which when you read those books, that adds another layer of questioning as to whether they got the dates wrong. but there's so many stories, 1,100 pages of them, and most of the stories are a few pages long, that it's enough information that you can start to see patterns and give more of a percentage of likelihood. Where when multiple guys say in the early 70s that they had shaps, well, then you can start to think, okay, it's probably reliable. Whereas if only one guy said, yeah, we had shaps in the early 70s, then then that's less reliable, and you think, well, a bigger likelihood that he was misremembering. I found an account of spurs in I think it was 1870. I think it was that same story I was talking about. He mentioned twice that they had spurs, so I think it's very believable. Oh, anyway, so I would recommend this book. I'd have to get the name of it. If you want it, let me know. I'll go in and get it. Oh, and Royce. Okay, sorry, I called you Jennifer, but well, I mean, it's not really my fault. Idaho Artifact says, exactly, that's what I think. They're brought to me. It's why I don't dig for them. What material was it? I mostly find obsidian around here. Oh, cool. Yeah, I find around here it's quartz. Seems to be the most typical. Some people gave me something that they believe was a basalt tool, because we have a lot of basalt. I don't remember what they said it was. They're pretty reliable. His brother is archaeologist from school, so pretty reliable on him saying that was a tool that they found. Share it, Royce. The experience that scared you to death. I'm gonna assume it was related to ghosts. Okay, let's go get that waffle iron and get this waffle going. And I'll grab that. I'll grab the title of that book for you. It's on my. It's a digital. It's a digital book. I haven't ordered it, but I think you can. But I sit there and read, and I've got two documents open. I read the book, and then when I find something of note, I put it on my other document. I write the page, the year being referenced, and what it is I'm recording. Because it gets frustrating. You read all this stuff, and then you can't remember where you got the information, or if you're misremembering. And so, for these 70s Cowboys things, I'm actually writing it down. And let's see. I gotta go get the oil. Alright. Gotta melt the oil again, but fortunately I've got some oil so I can oil that waffle iron. Alright, let's see. It's called Trail Drivers of the Hunt. Trail Drivers of the Hunt. It's 1,070 pages. If you have any trouble with finding it, just message me or comment. I found out that I can see the comments from the live stream. It takes about a day, and then when YouTube is done processing the video, I can see it. So I can return back. Oh, let's see. The mortar that I talked about that I can't find now is I found it in the creek. So that was a neat find. It looked a little too round to be a normal rock, so I reached down and grabbed it, and sure enough, artifact. So that was neat. Idaho Artifact says that my best find, a Scottsbluff knife dating back about 8,000 years, is basalt. Wow. Scottsbluff. Where's Scottsbluff? I can't remember which state that's in. Stacy says my mother's friend and sister used to collect whole jars of arrowheads. Wow. Along the construction sites of their dad, and they were selling them. Wow. Then her dad made them throw them out. Oh my gosh. What I want to know is what style of arrowhead so that I can date it. When I looked into my area, apparently they didn't go through a lot of changes like other places. Like the main one is the Clovis. Like, you know, it's an era of flint knapping or whatever. We didn't have a whole lot of different different eras like that. Like there's only a few styles, is from what I understand. Yeah, that's what you're touching on there, because he said they weren't vagrants. Could you imagine? That's exactly the attitude. Like now, like when I see old houses, I hate that people didn't just put a roof on them, because around here, if you had a decent roof on an old house and an old barn, then it'd still be in great shape. But that country attitude of what's old is bad it's sad, and it's weird. You don't think of that from country people. You think of them as wanting to preserve history, but okay, I think I made it too hot. Oh gosh, too hot to handle, too cold to hold. All right, we're gonna oil this bad boy. And I found out one way of oiling it really well is to just pour a whole bunch of it on. And then pour it all on there. And then pour the extra. Oh, I hope I didn't get it too hot. Finding a happy balance. All right. I don't like burnt oil. Okay. Now let's make this happen before it cools off too much. Chasing coals, as I call it. Okay. Chasing coals is when you try to cook on them, but they keep cooling off. So you keep putting the food down closer and closer to them, but they cool off faster than the food cooks. Oh, I was making that way difficult. Way more difficult than it is. So it cools off quicker than it cooks. And you spend a whole hour trying to cook the dang thing, and it doesn't cook. That's what I call chasing coals. So hopefully we're not going to do that here. I think anybody who's actually, look at that view. All right, nice waffle batter. I think I nailed it. Now the bummer about this waffle iron compared to the modern ones have a little more space. So you get a nice thick waffle. This one makes them pretty thin. All right. Look at that. Oh, that's what that ring is for, catching all the... Oh, it's beautiful. I absolutely love waffles. Alright. Now, next time, I don't know, I gotta cook it outside, I guess, in order to use this thing. I'd love to be able to flip it, but instead I gotta flip it manually like a poor person. That's just a joke. All right. All right. Now we'll give it some time. Setting up camp that night. Oh, good. All right. Here's Royce's story of getting scared. Setting up camp that night, I had the tent all up, all nice and pretty. Went to start the fire for light. Went to bend down to light the fire. My ears caught the sound of horses running up. Oh, man. Real horses or ghost horses? I'm still curious if this is a ghost story. Either way, horses running loose is kind of scary when you're camping on the ground. Very scary when you're camping on the ground. Stacy, going back, this was part of the gorges in Oregon. I will ask her. Gorge. Yeah, okay. Yeah, interesting. That would be good to know because the Dalles is on the outside of the gorge, and that was the destination aside from the Willamette. The Willamette was the destination of the Oregon Trail. The Dalles was upstream, the Columbia, and then Walla Walla was the next location on the river. They did a lot of steamship floating of the river. Oh, hey, Juan from South Africa. Afrikaans, if I remember right. Interesting that you got a Spanish name. And looks like you're Orthodox. Ghost. Okay, so that was ghost horses running up on Royce. Wow. Oh, hey. That country cowboy taking the mules for a ride. Well, it's a beautiful day for it, in spite of the dang mud. I wish I had a horse that would ride, but I'm actually going to gonna be busy, unfortunately. All right, let's see if this is working. See, that side works perfectly. No stick. Leaves the whole waffle looking nice. Not this side. Can you see that? Picks up the whole dang waffle. All right. Like I said, you'd think it'd be burnt already. Nope. It's not even brown yet. But it looks like it's cooking evenly, so that's nice. Trimmed up my mustache. I just went to town trimming it up and leaving the ends long, and then I realized, what have I done? What have I done? But it'll make eating easier. I'm not eating biscuits anymore. They're too thick and the honey gets all in my mustache no matter how hard I try. So instead I'm doing pancakes. These pancakes I can make thinner, and then I can manage to get them in my mouth without getting honey all over my mustache. Oh yeah, speaking of my cabin, continuing to make little upgrades. Little upgrades make a huge difference. So I'll show you that when. But Royce has got a little more for his story. While we wait for the waffle to finish cooking, I grabbed my .22 rifle and jumped out of the tent and was ready to fight. And in that moment, I was in a different place. Whoa, dude! Vision. You had a vision, or you jumped. Now you guys are gonna think I'm wacko here. I haven't had the experience, but I know somebody who did of jumping dimensions or something. I can't say who, but somebody told me that when they were little, doggone it, the lighting changed. When they were little, they went under there was a ditch that the kids were playing in, and he went under the bridge that went over the ditch. It was like 8-foot wide ditch with irrigation water going in it. And he went under the bridge. He popped up and all the people were gone. He was at like a community festival where kids were playing, adults were talking, all in the park and stuff, all around town. He said he popped up and there was nobody there. It was just completely empty. And then he went back under the bridge, came up back on the other side, and it was normal. And this person is very credible. I know the easiest thing to do is, oh, he was just making it up. But people you hear enough of these stories, just like Royce's here. It's like he jumped dimensions. Dude, that's wild. But you didn't. Yeah, I mean, go on more if you got any more info on that. Thanks, Justin. There is something nice about having a clean mustache, having it trimmed up here and then long on the ends. So I'm trying to get it ready for my movie so that when I shoot it, when I shoot my film, I can have a good looking mustache. I mean, I like the rough and wild one that I have been wearing for years now. Idaho Artifacts, what state are you in? I only just found yourself, so I haven't seen. We had a historian here in Idaho by the name of David Humphreys who passed last year. Said he had so much. Oh, yeah, that sucks. And he didn't write it down or record it before he was gone. But anyway, Idaho Artifacts, I'm just over here in eastern Washington. I'm in Yakima. So probably not too far from you. Dead Wolf Resistance says it does happen. If anybody else has got dimension jumping stories, pass it down. It was more real than a dream. I believe it. I believe it. Okay, let's check on these waffles. Anyway, let's see, little improvements that I've made around here. I've started putting up shelves so my desk can be empty. And man, it makes it nice. Getting more organized, because when you're in a tight space like this, space matters. And so as soon as you put up a couple of shelves, all of a sudden it's like life-changing as far as living indoors. Now it's still not toasty brown. I'm pretty sure I missed out on the coals. They're not, I don't think they're hot enough now to do it in the amount of time. So anyway, but because I'm trying to make this cabin nice and now, I bought these kinds of things. And I know you're seeing a 2x4 right there, but that's just a placeholder. So I ordered these off of Amazon of all places. So there we go. I don't know if you can see it. Different styles, but they're nice. Wrought iron look. These are copper. Well, that one's copper. The other one's wrought iron. And then today, or tomorrow, or Monday, whenever I go into town, I want to get actual nice boards. I used to have fir. I like old school fir, that tight grain. But anyway, just got the 2x4s to see if I like the location of the shelves and the size of them, and if I want to do a second shelf. And I'm probably going to do a second shelf here, up there for my spices. So this is my coffee and tea shelf, my coffee grinder, and then up above that, I want to do spices and all that stuff, so I can empty out my cabinet. This is a cabinet I'm using, and I want to get a bigger cabinet. I want to get one that's wider and actually has drawers, because then I can get my dang clothes and put them in here. Because I have found out from experience, I don't like having clothes stored under my bed. Having the elevated bed is a big deal because you get tons of storage space, but it's not handy. It's kind of a mess. So if I got drawers here, just throw my clothes in there, easily accessible. And then the dogs can sleep under the bed because Maddie tends to be in my way. I didn't account for a dog when I designed the size of house I was going to live in. I wasn't counting on a dog sleeping right here in the way, in the pathway. Uh, so anyway, oh yeah, tea lover, awesome. My favorite, I like to have Irish breakfast tea on hand, and then I like to have it's a Chinese organic Keeman is my other favorite tea. So that's like my later in the day or afternoon tea. Organic Keeman, Keemun. Really good stuff. That's about it. But I gotta admit, I drink a lot more coffee than tea. But man, when it's cold out, I think about Pa Ingalls. He's got a quote in the books saying, tea is a man's drink when it's cold out. So my favorite thing is when it's really cold, go spend time outside, come inside and have some hot tea. All right. Let's see if this waffle is cooked. Nope. Still really soft. Gosh darn it. Well, guys, this is why it annoys me when people say, just use coals to cook. I got coals. It's not cooking. It's a little more involved than that. You gotta have enough coals, and they gotta be hot enough. So, we're gonna chase them and use this rack and put the waffle iron right on top. Right on top of the coals. Maybe we'll get them now. See why it's so frustrating? It's been almost an hour. Well, I guess it hasn't been an hour of cooking. It's only been about 20 minutes, I think. Okay, so it's not that bad. Not that bad after all. Whoops. All right. Oh, rice. I had one more experience at that, but being a kid, that traumatized me for a while. But after that, I would leave the spirit gifts like feather and they would be gone. Whoa. Oh, that's wild. Oh, cool. Indian Idaho artifacts. Where do you get your tea? If anybody's curious, I found this stuff is a killer deal. Davidson's Organic. It's like 15 bucks for 16 ounces. So it's a little under $1 an ounce for kosher, organic, loose leaf tea on Amazon. So if anybody's looking, that's the best deal. I was buying tea from other companies, they charge like $2.50 an ounce. And if you're rich, then people do that. Sierra Nevada Banjo retracted a message. That's all I saw. I didn't see your message. It's just that you retracted it. If you got something to share, looking forward to it. Again, guys, if you got more jumping dimensions stories, anyone else out there, please share. The book name, if anybody's interested, I'll show you another good one. Somebody asked me about a good book for reading 70s stuff. Sierra Nevada Banjo. Welcome, by the way. That's a name I don't recognize. I got a copy of that Pioneers of the Black Hills. Oh, yeah. Yes, Pioneers of the Black Hills. Oh, I only have a digital copy of it, but that's a great one. It's not for cowboys, but it's a great one for 70s experience. This one is also a fantastic book. Trails Plowed Under, Charlie Russell. Now the thing is, he writes it kind of like fiction. You don't know how much is fiction and how much isn't. He's got a character in here, a cowboy a fictional character that he writes the stories through. But my thing is, oh shoot. Okay, hang on. I'll get back to that. I think it's actually cooking now. Crap. Might be burning. my thing is, he's writing these stories. Charlie Russell, the painter, the famous cowboy, he's writing these stories in a fictional way. But my thing is, I'm not there to learn. Oh, so um, so this cowboy in this story didn't really get dragged for 2 miles by his horse. Like, oh, got to throw that book away because that was made up. It's like, no, I don't care about that part. That part can be totally fictional or real. But what he's writing about is the old times. And so when he throws in details like, we set up our tent for the night, well, then that tells me, oh, maybe these guys were traveling with a tent, which is significant because this morning and reading that book, there I got a great description of what this guy and the cowboys used in their camp. And he said we had our bedding, and we each had a tin cup and our coffee pots, but he didn't say a tent. And tents are pretty uncommon. I'd love to find an account where they had tarp tents, because that's what I camp with, is tarp tents, and I've got no real proof of them being used. So anyway, I think that's a fantastic book, because he describes again the 1870s cowboy in that. I've got a few descriptions of 1870s cowboys now. Okay, guys, I think my waffle is ready. I can smell it. That's when you know bread is ready, is when you can smell it, like if you're cooking biscuits. Uh-oh, uh-oh. It might be black. I think it burned. But see, this side, still, it's not even toasted brown. Doggone it. I like toasted brown. Yeah, and that side got black. But it's not completely black. So see what I mean? This side's like the color of whole wheat flour. And this side I got black. Doggone it. All right, well, if I would have paid a little more attention, it would have worked. So it's a learning process. Next time, maybe I'll get it right. I'm still going to eat it. Don't think that's going to waste. And even the black part, that will be thoroughly enjoyed. But I'm not going to eat it here because it's a mess eating butter and honey with my mustache. So, okay, let's finish up here. Royce's story. And anyone else. It's not too late. We're gonna finish up some stories, and then we're gonna sign off, and I'm gonna eat my waffle. But don't feel like you can't share a story. Okay, Royce says, almost at the end of my stay, I had one more experience after that. We would sit in the pasture at sunset and watch wildlife. Sitting there, I snapped back to the dream state this time. All right. I was sitting on the ground, and I had native chiefs sitting around me, and I felt safe. Wow. Oh, so I think I felt like they showed me everything is okay. It's hard to put into words. That's cool. That reminds me of a friend of mine. He told me about an experience he had where they were at like a national park place. He walked into the ranger station, like the gift shop area, if I remember right. And suddenly he went into a trance, and he said that he saw this. It was like it was real. He was watching these Indians walk by, back in the day, and it was all snowy. I believe he said it was snowy, and they were walking, and one of them looked at him, and a message was conveyed. It was wild. I think it was about being on sacred lands. It gives me goosebumps right now thinking about it. But again, I don't think the guy was making that up. I think that there's a lot of these experiences. There's enough of them. I think that there was a lot of credibility. Okay, let's see. Idaho artifacts. I'll look into them. That sounds great. I buy Harney and Sons when I can. Whatever is cheapest normally. I get organic. I have to drink organic coffee. Believe it or not, it actually hurts my stomach if I don't. I can drink a little bit. Like if I'm out, I can drink some normal coffee. But if I drink it regularly, I only buy organic, but I haven't. Well, I might have heard of Harney and Sons. I don't remember. Butter and syrup fix it right up. Yes, absolutely. I'm kind of looking forward to that waffle now. In fact, I'm gonna see if I can. Oh, whoops. Close it back up so it stays warm. There we go. Okay, Cafe of Broken Dreams says so. So regarding shelter, they either slept under the starry night sky or did they use natural materials to build some sort of A-frame shelters or natural formations such as boulders and caves? All I've seen from photos, but not cowboys, just people back then who were traveling, I've only seen A-frame tents and whatever the other one is. It's like it was modeled after the Sibley. It was modeled after, it's like today we call them like cowboy teepee. The Sibleys and wall tents, and that's all I've got a reference of. Besides that, if they used a fly, they set it up in an A-frame configuration. But again, that's not cowboys. All I'm aware of is if it was like, we got to separate, cowboys. The ones that were traveling on the trail to Kansas, for all I know, from what I believe, they just slept out in the storm. If it stormed, maybe the ones who weren't on watch, because there was always cowboys tending herd, they might have got under the chuck wagon. You would assume that they'd have a tarp and that they'd set up a lean-to that everybody'd sleep under. You would assume that, but I have no evidence for that. But what you do have evidence for is these guys talking about how miserable it was when it stormed and how they got wet. I could go on and on about that. But when traveling, like I say, most traveling was done, you'd have a place to stay. Like, I have read about camp outfits, but that was, so there is such a thing as a camp outfit. So it's not unheard of that people would travel with a tent. But again, cowboys, like, let's say they got to the end of the trail and they wanted to go back home to Texas. I'm pretty sure, for the most part, they just counted on staying with pioneers or staying at a hotel because they had money. So they'd hit towns or they'd hit pioneer houses. I don't think it was a lot of bushcraft like a lot of us think. That's what I thought when I started my channel. But then through learning history more and more, you find the old timers, they didn't do a lot of bushcraft. They didn't need to. There was enough settlements. Well, some early guys did, but the times were changing so much. It's hard to really say this is how it was, because you got to really specify what area and what era. Why would you sleep out in the rain when you can go stay with a family? And I got into cowboy stuff when I was young from Hollywood movies, and what appealed to me was being out in the wilderness alone. But the reality is, they didn't think that way. They didn't think like, oh, I got to get out away from people. Like, they enjoyed people. It's not like today with social media where we hate people. They loved being around people, generally speaking. Dead Wolf Resistance. All right, here we go. I did see a ghost calf in my calving barn one morning. I went to get the calf and mom cow, but when I got to that end, it was gone. Huh. That's wild. Cafe of Broken Dreams also asks, and did the cowboys have good knowledge about wild edible plants and typical survival skills? No, they didn't. There's lots of accounts of these guys almost dying because they didn't have food, or they ran out of food and they had to kill a beef, or they're starving because they hadn't seen any buffalo, or the game, they didn't see any game. It was And in fact, this book, I keep referring to my area. I'm really fortunate that I've got this book written by A.J. Spawn. He's one of the first white guys to settle in this valley and was one of the cattlemen. And this book is incredible, incredible history. I'm so glad that I have it for my local area. And oh yeah, one of his stories. He was coming home through Ellensburg back to the Yakima Valley, and he was starving. I don't remember if he lost his horse. I think he had a horse. I don't know why I don't know. Anyway, there was nobody around, and he was starving to death. So he knew, he was friends with the Indians, and he knew enough about the Indians that he started looking for a cache. Because around here, the Yakimas, they would dig roots and then they'd put them in a cache for when, because then they'd go fishing after root season. And then the fishing season would start, so they'd go down to the Columbia, and then they'd come back up and they'd collect their food. So he knew enough about them that he went and looked for some of their roots. And now I've done this before. I had a similar experience, except I wasn't starving to death. He found their roots and he ate some, but you can't eat them raw. They need to be cooked. And so he got even worse then from eating them. And he wrote a note because he thought he was going to die. He wrote out a note. But then somehow he managed to come down to the area where my other property is. He got down there to one of the settlement houses, and they fed him, one of the pioneer families. So the point is, he knew the Indian ways, and even he almost starved to death by trying to eat native roots. So I don't have any accounts of guys like living off the land. I have one account of guys eating dried meat, and that was Billy the Kid and the Regulators, because they were being chased, and so they couldn't. They didn't have time to stay with settlers and get food, so they went into the tribe, into the Navajo reservation, and traded for a bunch of dried meat because they were on the run. So, so that was kind of a unique situation. It was because they were on the run. It wasn't because like, oh, we just eat dried meat. Great respect for the Native Americans. Me too. I wish that they hadn't lost so much of their ways. But around here, the Yakimas are really fortunate. They've got a lot of hunting lands. It makes a lot of people angry, but they have a lot of their hunting and fishing rights. And so, in a lot of ways, I'm really happy for them. Like the Yakimas, they could be living the old way, in my opinion. But cool, Stanley. Man, now I have a reason to go down to Texas. I wasn't planning to do this year. Yes, I love reading about the mountain men. I've read Osborne Russell's book. That was a really good one. Mountain Men book recommendations. I mean, Meeker, Joe Meeker, his is a good one. Except that his is only a little bit of it is about the trapping era, because there's actually a really interesting history about Oregon, because when the trapping was over, he went down to Oregon and lived, and he fought in the battles too. In fact, I think he fought in the Yakima Wars, the Yakima Indian Wars here, if I remember right. He joined, but he didn't fight. But yeah, I can't remember my other mountain man books that I would recommend. There's one to avoid. I mean, it's a good read, but the guy's just making stuff up. You can tell while reading it that he's mostly writing to show off how great he thinks he is. And the main thing is, he wrote, I think it was late 30s, that he was talking about fighting Indians, And he says, well, we never would have won if it weren't for having Colt's revolvers. It's like, dude, you're up around the Pacific Northwest. You didn't have Colt revolvers. Because at that time, the only ones that existed were the Pattersons. And from my understanding, from reading from the Comanche Moon book, the Pattersons were not out here. The Texas Rangers found them and got them. Michael Wilson asked about my other property. Well, I'm trying to sell that property so that I spend all my time here. But the way that it's been working, mostly I spend winter and spring out at this property, and then summers and fall at the creek property, because it's so much easier to stay cool there with that creek and shade. And then because I'm there, I just stay, even though I want to be here in the fall. But and then I spent the winter of 22-23 at that property. That was the coldest, wildest winter we had. That's when I built this cabin. And then it warmed up as soon as I got this cabin done. Rocker 4579. Hell yeah, elite ball knowledge. Okay. Last week, I think it was last week, some gal commented, and I thought it was a bot. And I said it looked like a bot, and then she deleted her message. So I felt bad. So if that was you and you're listening, I feel really bad about that. If you weren't a bot. If you were a bot, then yeah, then you won't be here. Yeah, I'm really tempted to get into the Mountain Man era, but doing historical impressions takes so much time and money that I'm really trying hard to just focus on one era, even though I'm actually doing two eras now. My movie is 70s, so I'm focused on 70s, but then I also am keeping my 60s thing going. So I want to, a friend of mine, I think he's up hunting right now. He might be getting me 3 deer hides that I can tan. Somebody offered to have me come down and teach me how to tan hides. I can kind of tan hides. And then I could make an outfit, but buckskin outfit for a trapper reenacting is just scratching the surface. You got to have the right saddle, which is a different era saddle from 70s, and then you got to have the right guns and all the accoutrements to go with it. Anyway, so really tempted, but anyway, let's see. Cafe Broken Dreams, thanks for clarifying that. It seems that there's a tendency to romanticize the archetype of the cowboy, like the ultimate survival jack of all trades. Yeah, I mean, the real history is amazing, but yeah, very different from what we think. Like even the fur trappers, some of them, it's not really straightforward how much bushcraft they were. In my opinion, I'm not going to get into all of that. Yeah. I mean, the trappers were incredible, but even they seemed to, from what I've read, they traded for buckskin. They weren't out there tanning buckskin hides and making their clothes. I mean, why would you when you got Indian tribes to trade with, or you can give them a string of beads and then get a hide or two. Anyway, are my properties close? I mean, like an hour drive, depending on how fast I go. I haven't been doing much shooting at all. I'm getting more organized and more productive, so I hope to get back to shooting soon. I mean, I want to do my modern shooting, because that's a skill that you can lose, and I want to get back to shooting my black powder. That way, maybe next hunting season I'll be ready, and then I'll go hunting again finally. Yeah, they did a lot of shopping once a year at the Rendezvous. And when you read about the mountain men, like, it seems like the majority of their survival was from being tough, not from being smart. And I will go into it a little bit. Then to add to that, later in the 70s, I think it was the late 70s, we get Nessmuk, who was an Easterner, and he wrote a book on camping. And why? He states his purpose for writing the book. He says, look, going out into the wilderness doesn't have to be a struggle. You can make yourself comfortable, and here's my book on how to make yourself comfortable in the wilderness, which indicates to me that there's a long history of just being tough, and that's how you survive. I mean, like the trappers, it's like being a cowboy. They didn't, I think a lot of them just went out once and got out of it if they got out alive. And then the ones who did stay at it, a lot of them left as they got older because it was a rough way of living. And there were just a few that really stayed at it for a long time. Or if they didn't go back east, they would get into the to working at the forts where there's more comforts. So yeah, in my opinion, the bushcraft stuff, I believe that we're in a golden age of a new golden age of camping where we're adapting useful bushcraft so that it's not, to contrast the backpacking REI where everything's plastic and everything's store-bought. I think what we're creating a new golden age of camping. But I think bushcrafting seems to have lost some popularity from where it was like 5 years ago because it's pointless. Like when I go camping, like I watch these, I like bushcraft videos, but it's like, well, here's how you can put a hook on a tree to hang stuff. And I'm like, when I go camping, I'm like, I don't have anything to hang. Why do I need to know how to cut a branch and tie it to a tree to hang stuff? I don't hang anything. But then I'm more minimalist than most people. I guess they got a mirror to hang up, a water filter to hang up. I don't carry either of those. But I don't know. Bushcrafting, like you can just carry a tarp and all of a sudden now you don't have to spend 3 hours making a shelter that they make it look like you can do in 30 minutes on a YouTube video. But tarp tent is really cool. And that's kind of bushcrafting. But you carry a rope and a tarp and a few stakes and suddenly there's no need to do any bushcrafting. So that's my take on it. I love bushcrafting. I think it's impressive. If I was younger, I'd be doing a whole lot more of it. I wish that I had YouTube when I was 16. But anyway. All right, folks. I'm going to call this quits. I'm going to eat this waffle. And there's been a fantastic discussion. Oh, cool. Idaho Artifact says, I've been making stone tools for real traditional style bushcraft. I'm hoping to go camping completely traditionally. Awesome. Yes, that kind of thing I do absolutely love. But it's not like, and you probably get what I'm saying. I think you all understand. Like that kind of thing I absolutely love. I would love to be able to just go out and camp completely bushcraft. All right, yeah. Take care, guys. Thanks. Thanks for all the comments, all the feedback, and the stories. Royce, that was awesome. Hopefully we can catch you next week. Yeah, every week, guys. 8:30 Saturday morning. That's Pacific Standard Time. 8:30 a.m. And who knows? Maybe I'll cook something else next week. We'll see. Maybe I'll do tea again. I always like showing people how to do loose leaf tea and try to introduce that world to people. All right. Have fun, get outside, enjoy your loved ones, enjoy the Christmas season, listen to festive music, and remember, life's a lot more fun over on the wild side.